The U.S. President has signed an executive order requiring voter ID for every ballot cast nationwide. From now on, voters must present valid identification at polling stations across the country. The order also limits mail-in voting, allowing it only for military personnel overseas and citizens with serious illness. Supporters argue the measure is essential to protect the integrity of U.S. elections. Critics, however, warn the law could restrict access for minorities, elderly citizens, and students. Legal experts predict multiple court challenges in the coming weeks. As the 2026 elections approach, this executive order is set to ignite a fierce national debate over voting rights in America.
Subscribe to U.S. Daily Briefs, your trusted source for the latest American news.
A powerful storm, Hurricane Iris, has made landfall along the Gulf Coast. Heavy rains and winds have left entire neighborhoods underwater. Over 2 million residents are now without power across multiple states. Thousands have taken refuge in emergency shelters as conditions worsen. Mass evacuations are underway, with traffic backed up for miles. Rescue teams are working around the clock to reach stranded residents. Officials warn recovery could take months as America braces for the long road ahead.
Subscribe to U.S. Daily Briefs, your trusted source for the latest American news.
Markets are bracing ahead of August's U.S. jobs report, set for release this Friday. Investors are watching closely, as the numbers could shape the Federal Reserve's next big decision. July's hiring data came in far weaker than expected, with just 73,000 jobs added. The slowdown has triggered fresh concerns about the strength of the American economy. With weak figures piling up, many are asking if the Federal Reserve might step in. A potential interest rate cut in September is now at the center of economic debate. Adding to the uncertainty, President Trump recently fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The decision has raised eyebrows, especially amid growing pressure over poor job numbers. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has suggested a rate cut could be possible, but investors know the Fed will only act if Friday's jobs report shows continued weakness. Economists are forecasting about 70,000 new jobs in August, roughly in line with July's slowdown. A shortfall from that number could sharply increase expectations for a rate cut. All eyes are on this Friday's report, a pivotal moment for the U.S. economy and the Fed's next move.
Subscribe to U.S. Daily Briefs, your trusted source for the latest American news.
A federal judge has blocked efforts by the U.S. administration to expand fast-track deportations across the country. The court found the policy violates migrants' constitutional due process rights. The blocked expansion would have allowed deportations of any non-citizen unable to prove 2 years of U.S. residence, regardless of location. Critics warned this swept away protections long afforded by the Constitution. U.S. District Judge Gia Cobb emphasized that these migrants had a significant liberty interest in remaining in the country. Stripping them of their rights without a fair hearing would be unconstitutional. The ruling impacts millions as it applies not only to border crossers, but also migrants already inside the United States. The administration has already signaled its intent to appeal. Immigrant rights groups and civil liberties advocates praised the decision, calling it a victory for justice. Many warned the policy posed risks to long-standing legal protections. By halting this policy, the court upheld the Fifth Amendment's guarantee of due process. Legal observers say the case underscores ongoing tensions between executive power and constitutional rights. The administration's next move, an appeal, possibly reaching the Supreme Court. For now, the ruling stands as a firm reminder of constitutional protections in America.
Subscribe to U.S. Daily Briefs, your trusted source for the latest American news.
In Washington state, a massive wildfire is tearing through forests and rural communities. Thick smoke now covers the skies, forcing families to pack up and flee their homes in a rush. But just as crews were fighting the blaze, 2 firefighters were suddenly detained by immigration authorities. The move shocked fellow team members, who say every set of hands is desperately needed. Local leaders warned that pulling emergency workers off the fire lines could put more lives at risk. Many are calling the detentions dangerous and deeply irresponsible during a crisis of this scale. Community members and officials are now demanding answers from Washington, D.C. They argue that protecting lives and homes must take priority when disaster strikes. The Bear Gulch wildfire has already burned thousands of acres and forced hundreds of residents to evacuate nearby towns. Firefighters are struggling to contain the fast-moving flames. Helicopters continue to drop water from above, while ground crews work around the clock. Many firefighters are exhausted, but they remain committed to holding the line. As debate grows over the role of immigration enforcement in this crisis, questions remain unanswered. For many, the priority is simple: keep people safe and protect the communities under threat. For now, residents are clinging to hope and relying on the bravery of those still battling the fire, even under extraordinary pressure. Subscribe to U.S. Daily Briefs, your trusted source for the latest American news.